Hey.
Hey.
Podcast.
Oh, shit.
There
Ah! Fuck.
This movie.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Welcome to. See how we did that? That
We're
was
so
cute.
good
That was
at
very
this.
cute.
All right.
Welcome back to episode 4.
It is. It's flying by. Flying
I am a host, Dustin Holler. I know stuff. To my right is John Brown. He knows stuff.
as well. Yes.
Yes,
Also
he is a owner and proprietor of a thing
presenting you
that allows us
this
to do
production.
this thing. To my left is Reese Anweiler. He thinks he knows stuff.
A couple things.
Yeah.
I know some of the same
I
things.
think
Some of it's confirmed.
We each at least know a couple.
Yeah.
So combined, we know several.
Yeah, we've been through the ringer. So hey guys, it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it.
What have we been watching?
So I actually made it a point to watch another Quentin Dupieux
Mm-hmm.
movie. I watched Wrong Cops.
Oh, yeah?
Not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really expect anything because of the filmmaker, but like I definitely didn't expect that. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen any of his
Okay,
movies.
it's
Is this the Rubber director?
yeah, it is,
Okay.
and it really doesn't.
Check out the
there's,
episode
like,
3.
No connection whatsoever,
Yeah.
even remotely. Like, have you seen Tim and Eric Awesome Show? Good job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that guy in it,
Oh, yeah?
and the movie feels like that.
That, wow.
And that was really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Like,
The poster on the internet is like, all you see is like two fat torsos
Yeah.
like ripping out of
yeah,
cop
yeah.
uniforms.
I mean, it was entertaining. It wasn't. I hate that humor. Like,
Yeah.
Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Good job. I hate that shit. I
Yeah.
despise it. I don't think it's funny. I think they're trying way too hard. This was funnier than that, but it still was like so fucking abrasive to go from Rubber to that.
Yeah.
But I could, with everything being prefaced by Rubber. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
oh, fuck,
yeah,
you get away
he's-
with everything.
He's
now.
doing a thing for no reason. I get it, but I'm like, I don't know, man.
No reason.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was weird. It makes me super interested to watch other movies because I could tell he was just doing a thing. It feels like he was doing a thing for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah. Now I want to watch other movies to see because that was disappointing. It was funny enough. I didn't like turn it off, but
Yeah.
not what I expected. So that's what I watched.
What about you, Reese?
I watched the Adam Sandler movie Little Nicky. That was,
Oh my
that was
god!
sorry.
terrible.
It is.
Yeah,
It's one of the worst movies.
It's
pretty
one of the
fucking-
worst Adam Sandler movies,
Yeah.
which is saying something.
Like it's up. It's like he's got like a whole litany of them that you can throw in the same bucket. Like
Yeah.
like Waterboy is like kind of the
Yeah.
same movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, like
Now that one-
just him being like obnoxious, and it's those movies that made me stop watching Adam Sandler movies
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stop taking him seriously.
Yeah, Little Nicky was. It
Even though
was one of the
he's got a-
most painful of those for sure.
I wish he'd just stop doing comedies altogether. Like if we could
Yeah.
just stop that in
So,
general. Like if there's
I
any
did-
funny lines, just no pass, hard pass.
Did you see the Halloween Netflix movie?
Yeah, it was
Herbie or Huey or
Hubie's Halloween. Yeah,
Hubie,
something like that.
Huey, it's fucking weird.
I have not watched
Yeah,
any
it's
of the
like the
Netflix
same- it's
movies
like-
because I haven't heard anything.
That
good.
movie's basically like a sequel to Little Nicky. He's
It
got
is-
like this subgenre of movies where
It's
he just
better,
plays like
though.
a
Okay.
really nice guy that everyone
Yeah.
is a piece
When
of
I
shit
saw,
to.
when I
Yeah.
saw the trailer for the one where he plays his sister as well as himself,
Yeah.
Oof.
I'm like, I just saw the trailer and I'm like, I'm never watching another Adam Sandler.
Dude,
movie.
as soon
Yeah.
as
Like,
to
Jack
me,
and
as soon
Jill.
as an actor does that, I'm like kind of
Yeah.
checking off. Like you gotta.
it's like the Eddie
It's
Murphy.
really
But
thing.
hard
then
to pull that
he
shit off.
references that kind of shit in Funny People. He's like kind of
Yeah, that was a good
put
movie.
a
That was a good movie
spotlight
that
on
does have jokes in it.
Yeah.
But it was a very serious role.
yeah.
I've not he's got a couple like obviously Punch Drunk Love is really good.
hmm
There's another one that you guys might have missed. It wasn't like a great movie, but I thought his performance was really good. Called Spanglish, where he
Yeah.
plays like a chef that has like.
I didn't end
Yeah.
up watching it, but I wanted to. I knew I could take it seriously.
It's worth a watch. It's
Yeah.
worth a watch. It's probably like a 2.5, 3-star movie
Yeah.
overall.
It was a weird phase where they kind of build it as a comedy, but then so if you went into it thinking it was a comedy, it was like pretty bad
And I've
because
always-
like it's not a comedy.
Like it's not the best script ever, but
Yeah.
like the performances are all solid.
Yeah.
So like you're not walking into a huge pile of shit. So
I think with him, you can usually tell when it's a movie that's actually going to be worth, like you can take seriously.
Yeah.
Anything else,
things,
Reese?
I
Or
think you can.
I watched a stoner comedy on
you were just in that kind of mood, huh?
Saturday called Smiley Face. That one was actually pretty funny. It
Okay.
was very
I mean, dude,
relatable.
stoner comedies are stoner comedies.
We had
the
the 3-day weekend, so I've talked to you about most of these, Reese.
Yeah, you had a productive weekend.
I did. So my wife also had a 3-day weekend, and so like we just kind of stayed at home and watched movies. So we watched the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Robert. Not Robert Ford, is it?
Yeah, it is.
That's Robert Ford. That movie's incredible. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's one of my
history, Reese. It's history.
top
and
20
also
movies.
a really bad movie title.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
That's why
Come on.
I
That's
just
too
call
many
it
syllables.
The Assassination of Jesse James,
just
which
the
is still
assassin-
too long of a title.
Anyway, good film. I watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
You're just like stalking my letterbox this
Yeah,
weekend.
no, I actually
Yeah.
I did use that. These next two, not so much. The Northman is just one that I've been wanting to get to for a while. It was solid. That's by Robert Eggers. That did The Lighthouse. Not as good as The Lighthouse, but still like just visually like stunning.
Yeah.
And he uses black and white so well.
Right.
This is a color film, but there is a lot of black and white imagery in it, and it plays really well. And then I got to do a rewatch of a couple of films. A rewatch of Angels with Dirty Faces, a 1938 James Cagney movie, which is outstanding. It's not easy to get your hands on a copy of it, but I was able to do so, and it's amazing. James Cagney, 5'5".
A short king.
He is a dude who's 5'5". I think is the most menacing mafia figure in cinema in history.
Right.
Like he's kind of untouchable in that realm.
I mean, like Joe Pesci after him. I mean, Joe Pesci does like a really good job of being scary.
Yeah, he does. He's very good in that role.
Well, there's something
similar.
about a tiny person that commands so much authority. Like,
And it's
you
not
have to,
like
how does this tiny person command this much authority?
Yeah.
He's got to do some bad shit to command that much authority.
Cagney's facial expressions, like you just look at him, he's like, God damn, that guy looks scary.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if I've ever seen any Cagney movies, but like Joe Pesci though, he doesn't feel like he's compensating for something in his like intimidation. It's just like you kind of are just intimidated by him.
Right.
He's just like something about him. He's a fantastic actor.
So I had one more movie that I rewatched, and it's going to lead to like a very like mini rant to like start this thing off. So I found out that there's a couple series that had first seasons last season, like last year, that I thought were two of the best, like hottest, like most original new series I've seen. One of them was called Night Sky with J.K. Simmons and Sissy Spacek. And the other was called Let the Right One In, which I found out is actually based off of two films, one foreign film and one remake. And I'm going to have to check out those films because the series was absolutely fucking fantastic. So anyway, I found out over the weekend that both of those series, after one season, are not being renewed, and I'm fucking pissed.
That sucks.
I'm really fucking pissed because both of them were fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that leads me to the other movie that I did a rewatch of over the weekend, which is Alita Battle Angel.
I just watched that for the first time.
That's been on my watch list since it came out.
Yeah, it's really good film. It's really good, and it's one of those that's like hidden gem. Nobody went to see it.
Yeah, I missed it in theaters.
Which is why we haven't seen a sequel.
Yeah.
They haven't made the sequel. So this was actually written by James Cameron.
Right.
James Cameron's been too busy doing Avatar shit for the last decade.
And it was directed by Rodriguez, right?
By Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And so I did some digging. In fact, like, because it's one of those movies, every couple of months I dig and like see if there's information in the stratosphere about if we're ever going to get a sequel, because it's kind of been tossed around forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, what the like studios are basically saying is, like, because it didn't make a lot of money, like, domestically, like all of its money was made like overseas, and studios historically don't like doing sequels to movies that didn't make money in the United States.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is they would like to do a sequel, but only if James Cameron directs.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's not going to happen.
Well, the thing is, it was James Cameron it was his actual baby. Like, it was his passion project.
James Cameron is on record saying he doesn't see himself making another non-Avatar movie for the rest of his life.
We'll see. We'll see.
So now I would say for that movie, now would be a good time to do it because it's essentially an anime.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is just an anime. It's a live action anime.
I love it. I think it's great.
No, it's
I
a
think
great
it's
movie,
fucking
but
fantastic.
what I'm
And
saying is that
I'm irritated. It's one of those things. It's like I knew Let the Right One In when I found that one. Like, I was like, wow, this is like a series I have heard nothing about. I had to look to find it, and I was like, God, this is so good. And like, I kind of was worried that it wouldn't get renewed because nobody knew it existed.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Now that's always the deciding factor, but that movie was made just before anime became anime is super fucking mainstream now. So the subject matter of that film is way more acceptable to a lot of people now than it was then. Like, and it was like right before, man. It was made right before that really became a big deal because a lot of people now love anime. It's everywhere. People are getting into it left and right. It now would be the perfect time to make that sequel because it could.
I felt similar with like Scott Pilgrim because Scott Pilgrim also kind of bombed in the box office.
Right.
And if you watch that, it's like probably one of the closest things you'll ever see to like a live action anime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it made like half its budget, you know.
Now
And now
it's
it's like a cult classic.
yeah, for sure.
Scott Pilgrim, I was thinking because I obviously saw it for the first time over the weekend. I think they could make a sequel to that movie today. Like, I think you could, because it's been like what, like 13 years or some shit. Like,
yeah,
since
2010, I
10
think.
or so. Yeah,
Yeah.
13 years since they made the first. I think they could make a sequel today, and it would be good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they could return everybody. They'd be older, and they'd be
Well,
fine.
so what they're doing is Netflix. The movie is based on a graphic novel series that's like 7 books, and each one's about the size of an anime book. That's like about the size, and so they're remaking it on Netflix. It's going to be animated, but they have the entire cast of the movie coming back, like the entire cast.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be kind of like an extended version, but it's all animated. And it's coming to Netflix.
Oh, okay.
So voice acted by all the cast.
But it's got Edgar Wright is involved again. The creator of the comic is involved. So
Nice.
it sounds pretty promising.
That should be a good production.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. All right.
All right, so I guess my mini rant is that I'm just irritated that like Night Sky, Let the Right One In,
There's
and
a lot.
Alita Battle, like these are things that stories that are meant to be continued, and that's the thing. All 3 of those kind of end on cliffhangers. Like the story is supposed to continue,
Honestly,
and like
there is a huge graveyard of fantastic series
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
last 5-10 years that should have been continued. They got nixed in their prime. Like that fucking The Only Thing I've liked that Drew Barrymore was in the Netflix show.
The zombie one?
yeah.
That was hilarious.
That was good.
That was fucking fantastic, and it left on a
Yeah.
super huge
That's another one.
cliffhanger. The Norseman on Netflix.
Yeah.
The kind of dry office comedy.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
Like I fucking love that show, and it left. That show was really weird in this presentation because the second season jumped back, and the third season jumped forward. But that thing was a tragedy that didn't get continued because it was fantastic. There's a slew of them.
But then meanwhile we have shit like, and not to bad, but really they did 15 seasons of Supernatural.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Like
there's
some
a
of those
lot of-
CW shows have been running for like 2 decades. It's
They have
crazy.
like visual
Well,
CGI from like 2008.
It's all those like teen drama shows.
There's 10 fucking Fast and Furious. Like,
yeah.
but
yeah.
that's it's money though. It's money, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's if people don't spend the money on it, then they're not going to produce more.
I mean,
So-
I've heard so many times people be like, "I'm just tired of Marvel. They do the same thing every movie. It's so
Everybody's
boring."
still-
I'm super excited for the new Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: every Fast and Furious movie is identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the new AC/DC album, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you got to get that one. Do you own an AC/DC album because you already own the new one? All right. So anyway, this week's pick was A Bronx Tale, and so that was our feature for this week. we all got together. We watched A Bronx Tale.
Dustin's choice.
First time.
Yeah, it was my choice.
My first time as well.
So we have completed the cycle now. Once this episode is over, and we will restart the cycle. Which I believe, Reese, you'll be making a pick tonight at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna do something a little different today. I'm gonna read a. If you've been following along, we've been doing these walkthroughs, and they've been kind of a fucking train wreck, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So
I'd say different reasons each episode.
No, they haven't been the same ever.
Yeah.
So today I'm gonna read. Actually, credit to you, Reese. We're gonna read. It's the quickest synopsis ever. Off of I'm using Letterboxd. So this is like literally like one paragraph, and then we all like have notes that we're gonna go over. And I actually kind of like took my own notes while doing a rewatch, and so I've kind of.
That's what I just did the other day.
I've got a lot to say about it. So anyway, general synopsis.
You would like to pause the podcast and watch it.
Oh yeah, we should say this.
There's not a ton of spoilers, I feel like, but you know, if you want to pause now and go watch the movie. It is currently streaming on AMC Plus and available to purchase in all the normal places.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah, it is a movie that, I mean, any movie can be spoiled, but this movie is definitely about the experience, the performances, the vibe, and the feel. So, like, knowing what happens.
Shot very much like a play.
Isn't a big deal.
Not to put it on the same level, but for whatever reason, I said it to you guys the other night, if you like classic films, it brings to mind A Streetcar Named Desire. Now, I don't think it's on the same level as a film. Definitely not as far as like acting, performances, and direction, and some of those like technical things. But the style definitely kind of gives you those feelings of A Streetcar Named Desire. So anyway, A Bronx Tale. One man lives in the neighborhood, another man owns it. I think that's the tagline. Set in the Bronx during the tumultuous 1960s, an adolescent boy is torn between his honest, working-class father and a violent yet charismatic crime boss. Complicating matters is the youngster's growing attraction, forbidden in his neighborhood, for a beautiful black girl.
Fair enough.
I think that's a good summation of the movie.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. All right. So join us next week.
Yeah, that's that.
Good night, folks.
It was good.
So, yeah, I wanted to start, let's just break open a few characters. I think there's, like, basically 4 characters that we really can't, like, tell the story without, and that's going to be Calogero. We're just going to call him C, because his name is fucking stupid.
Yep, and that's what he gets called in the film.
Yeah. It's hard as hell to say, it's hard to hear, and annoying to listen to.
The first time I watched the movie, I didn't know what his name was until the credits rolled, and I could read it.
Yes.
Calogero?
It sounds like something that you would use to like fix a clog in your sink, you know? But anyway, so the movie kind of is broken up into 2 acts. In the first act, like very much like I'm using play speak right now.
Yeah.
The first act is a 9-year-old Calogero played by Francis Capra. And then at right about the 1 hour mark, you get a 17-year-old version played by Lillo Brancato. And Lillo Brancato is also the narrator throughout the entire movie. So Calogero, we're going to call him C henceforth. Lorenzo, the bus driver and father of C, played by Robert De Niro, who is also the director. And then we have the, as aforementioned, charismatic gangster Sonny, played by Chaz Palminteri, who is the writer of this screenplay, and also it was originally a one-man show that he did on Broadway.
That the guy that played Sonny did?
Yes.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. He actually wrote the thing and was doing a one-man show on Broadway. Robert De Niro went to see the one-man show and was blown away and had to meet the guy afterwards and told him it was the best one-man show he'd ever seen and he thought it was a movie. And so they started working on a script to turn it into a movie right away together.
Nice.
But they gave all the writing credits to Chaz Palminteri because it is his baby, and from what I understand, a lot of it is very much about his early life experience. So a lot of it is kind of about him.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that happen in the movie probably happened to Chaz Palminteri when he was a kid. And then the love interest for young Calogero, or C, is Jane, played by Terrell Hicks. And those are the only there are obviously other characters, but those are the ones you need to know.
Those are the story driving characters. I don't know. I mean, the rest are important, but they're all atmospheric.
Yeah,
all the other characters are part of the setting, essentially. You know, and that's most of the characters are definitely that, and it makes sense from the experience of the writer to write the characters in that way because they're all just kind of pieces.
Yeah.
In the scenario, in the scene, but they make the scene. So
there's probably a few side characters that got more screen time than his love interest, even.
Oh yes, yes.
Like she's definitely.
The whole
you can't really tell the story without her.
Well, I mean, so that is, I don't know. To me, watching the film, that was there, and it's a big part of the story.
It's not it's not important.
The biggest part of the story is the dynamic between the two father figures.
Yeah.
Like the love interest is there just to have there is the racial tension that's, super typical of the era, and it's a huge deal, of course. But what really matters for the main character himself, is being torn between the two worlds of his idol and his father.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, just to throw it out there to start with, this movie is like an obvious coming of age story.
Oh yeah.
And something I really take from it is it really shows the influence that father figures have on a young person, and it's very evident. I actually have a thing, something that I've kind of semi-quoted here from basically the intro scenes to Act 1 and Act 2 that I think kind of explain that a little deeper. I think the biggest thing we need to do, though, is so we kind of give you the base synopsis, so basically it starts out young C really idolizes this gangster who's in his neighborhood. He's right next door.
Yeah.
And
he's the man.
He's got
everybody loves him.
Yeah, everybody loves him. Everybody in the neighborhood loves him, respects him. And so basically he's got the father who's the hard worker. And so how do they become friends? Well, that's when young C witnesses Sonny commit a murder right in front of his house.
Yep.
And basically
sets the stage for everything.
Yeah, sets the stage for everything. Basically, the police come, know that he was a witness, put a lineup together, makes him go through each person in the lineup, and basically C doesn't rat, and from there Sonny has gained the respect of this kid because, hey, that's a stand-up kid.
So after I was rewatching this the other night, and I think one of the most important scenes for the character and kind of in the movie is when the cops come to the door. And also, quick side note, that response time is fucking nuts.
Oh no!
Yeah,
right?
that was
crazy.
It's remember they go up the stairs, have a conversation, and then the cops knock on the door,
and they already have suspects lined up.
Yeah, the whole thing, the response time is nuts.
And also there's almost like they didn't do a good job of converting that from the play to the movie, because even when the cops come to the door and they're a little while ago, and it was it was just a second ago.
Yeah, literally they walked up the stairs.
In real time watching it, it was just a second ago.
So the timing would have to be they walked in his door, the apartment door, the moment that the family got to their apartment. So that took me out of the movie. It's
I would say,
times,
I don't know how effective the police were in New York in 1960 something, they could have been just fucking gangsters about it.
Yeah, because there's another scene later in the movie when the police are coming, and there's somebody
I see him coming.
And they're talking down, and so
there's another thing that happens later that is kind of, I don't know, you could kind of see this is something more and there's an allusion to, because what the altercation is about is a running thing through the film, because in the movie it looks like it's over a parking space. It looks like just a random street quarrel, you know, and so there's always this thing through the rest of the movie, what was it really about? Was it really about a parking space? I don't know. And so with that in mind, you could think these fucking cops were there immediately, maybe it was definitely much more than a parking space, because if they were there that soon, then they had to be paying attention to what was happening.
Yeah.
But so the big thing, the important scene with this is when the cops come in, and the dad, Lorenzo, is trying to just like, no, he doesn't know nothing. He doesn't know nothing. And C, at 9 years old, super consciously says, I know everything, Dad.
I saw the whole thing.
And so he chooses to, prove himself to Sonny.
Yeah.
He makes the conscious choice to set the stage. And that's a really big
and
part.
when they go down the
It's a big
lineup,
scene.
of course, they have it set up to where Sonny is the last one.
Yeah.
Is like, is this the guy? And they have that like long, like eye contact.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's really like you don't know which way he's gonna go. You don't know if
you
he's
really
gonna
don't.
completely not get what's going on and rat him out. Or...
I kind of figured he was just gonna fucking finger Mush, bad luck, the comic relief bad luck character in the in the movie
that everybody hates, and yet they still allow him to hang
who's
around.
this guy? And then we'd have a comical Mush. So that was a huge scene. You walk to the police, like when they come out, and the whole neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
is like everybody's like.
It's like walk to the gallows.
These motherfuckers are gonna get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that you brought up the timing though, because I think that every time I've ever seen
I watched again,
it's because
and I know
it's like they go like it happens. He sees it happen. His dad grabs his arm, pulls him upstairs. They have a quick conversation. There's a knock at the door.
Yeah,
and it's like, and the police say it's been a little while, and it hasn't been a little while. It clearly hasn't been a little while. So I almost thought that was just like an adaptation issue. From the play. But then also like you think timing, it's like, well, we talked to people down there. We know that your son saw it. And it's like, they did their interviews quick, man.
Yeah. And he says, we have some people for you to look at, which means they already have the suspects lined up before he got
well, I thought that could have been like a usual suspects kind of thing. You know?
I mean,
like,
well, and that's where
anybody ever seen the usual suspects?
That kind of plays into what I was saying. Like, you could read into it that, the cops were watching and paying attention, and like we're following this guy, about to bust him, and then this thing happened, and like they were already like around the corner.
His dad said, like, that's like a motif in the first half of the movie of you'll understand when you're older.
Exactly.
I think it's definitely like a possibility that it's like a, what is the term? Unreliable narrator. Like the character Sonny, or not Sonny, but C is narrating, and he doesn't know all the details. So like
exactly.
I want to come back to this because there is another thing that happens that I think is really clever.
Yeah,
I think it's really clever with the narrator. We will come back to this.
Yeah.
All right. So.
I just got like a whole unlocked a big thought about this movie now. Like going into the unreliable narrator. That's really interesting. Okay.
All right. So
that kind of changes my view of the whole movie.
Yeah. Okay. So there's another thing that happens that I think is really clever the way that they do this with the unreliable narrator, because it's intentional. It's super intentional.
Yeah.
So anyway, so after this happens, he doesn't finger him. Basically,
thank God.
That would have been a much different movie if he had fingered him.
Yeah.
So anyway, they this little side street bar mafia or whatever basically approaches Lorenzo, tries to get him some run some numbers for like, I think it was like an extra $150 a week, which in 1960
was like $600, $700, $1,000 maybe.
Yeah. And Lorenzo's very proud. Like, nope. He's like, nope. He knows once you get involved with these guys, shit can happen in a hurry. It's like, like it sounded like a good gig, but he was a definite no. So eventually they bring the boy to meet Sonny in his little bar there.
Right. Good scene too.
It's a very good scene, and this is kind of where I want to bring these two intros together. So the thing that I thought was notable here is he sees his Yankees hat. And he's like, you a Yankees fan? He's like, yeah. And he's like, so you must be pretty upset that they lost. And he's like, yeah. And like, this son of a bitch made Mickey Mantle cry, and I'm upset about it. And he's like, so you're upset about Mickey Mantle? And he's like, he makes $100,000 a year. How much does your father make? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, yeah. He's like, the next time your father can't pay the rent, ask Mickey Mantle to pay it for you. See how that works out.
I think he just says see how that makes Mickey Mantle feel. He doesn't even mention money. He's like, see, Mickey Mantle's upset about that.
Yeah. And he's like, he's like, What do you say? He's like, see if Mickey Mantle cares, is what he said.
Yeah.
And then right after he says that, he says, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And that's like Sonny's line, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you figure that C throughout this whole story has kind of got like two different, he's got like an angel devil, and one of them is basically saying like, nobody cares, and
get yours. And...
Yeah.
Well, actually, so the interesting thing about Sonny too is that once he's right after this, he takes him under his wing, but once he does, it's funny because he is always, aside from murdering a guy and a couple other things that are just not kind of nice things, like he's a pretty stand-up guy, especially for C, and he shows his concern and care so much, for that. And there's a scene later, and that's a big scene that comes back to this scene. That there's another really, really impactful thing too.
Yeah, I guess with the view of the whole film, there's an argument to say that Sonny is, I mean, at least by a modern view, more morally correct than C's dad.
So I think the line that I was getting to here was, he says, Mickey Mantle doesn't care about you, so why should you care about him?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, that interaction I thought was pretty fucking badass.
So I want to go back to these two act intros, right? And let's skip it a little bit. So at the beginning of the movie, and then at what we'll call Act 2, because there's a time jump, he kind of does like a little voiceover narration, basically doing the setting. So at the beginning of the movie, he's kind of like saying, this is the church, this is my stoop, this is my apartment, like this is my dad's bus route, and then there's a basically they're setting up, the year was 1960, doo-wop was the thing on the street.
And it was for so many scenes after that.
But this is I don't know why, but this line has always stuck with me. He said, the New York Yankees were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates in the World Series, and Mickey Mantle was like a god to me.
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of the movie. And then, this is just like the influence on a young boy. He has his meeting with Sonny, and then there's like an 8-year time jump, and there's another intro scene when they come back in, and basically he says, the year's 1968. Dion is on the top of the charts. The Beatles are changing the way we do everything. The Yankees are in last place, and I don't give a shit. I love that. Like those two parts of the intro just show like how like a father figure can mold a young person's mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's plenty of instances throughout the rest of the film where he pulls from both father figures along the way,
Yeah, especially in like kind of like the climactic scene, like towards the end. There's one where he's like, not to skip too far ahead, but there's one at the end where he's definitely kind of like hearing both voices in his head at the same time, and like realizes that even though their messages were different, because really the messages are, nobody cares, the working man is a sucker from the gangster, and then his dad is there's nothing sadder than wasted talent.
Yeah.
Like those are the two messages that he's kind of
Which is honestly like a pretty damaging message to pass on to your kids. Don't waste your talent.
It's super from a guy that, and that's the character, which is, so many characters are this character. So many people were this character in that time. There's working class dudes that just are making do and making buy. It's generations. Why it's such a big deal is because this character is a person that's several generations of wasted talent.
Yeah.
Because of just dealing with life's shit that it throws at you, and you just have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And kind of at the end of the day, like the world is built upon wasted talent.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting about the story and interesting about Sonny's character is Sonny, and that's why by the end of the film, not to jump ahead, but there's always animosity between Lorenzo and Sonny, but by the end of the film, Lorenzo does pay his respects to Sonny, and I think he does so because he can see that Sonny is the way out of the wasted talent.
Yeah.
Like the lessons that Sonny gives help Lorenzo not waste his talent, because otherwise, or C not waste his talent, because otherwise C would just waste his talent by just surviving and doing the same shit that his dad had to do.
Yeah.
And wasted talent in survival It's a fucking terrible thing.
Yeah.
It really is. And it comes back to Sonny, too. Because that's one of the last lines that she has to Sonny is about wasted talent. And it's a talent wasted in a different way of a different kind, you know?
And John, I know, I just know because you and I have been friends for a long time, but I know I've heard you talk a lot about like wasted potential and and so I knew that part of the movie would kind of speak to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's something that I've heard you harp on.
It's a real thing, and most people in
sad.
the world is, like I said, the world is literally built with blood and wasted potential. Like every war, every military conflict, every factory, like they're all built on wasted potential, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's where the really cool thing about Sonny is as soon as he takes C under his wing, he never wants him to be involved in the gangster life. He never wants to separate him from his father. He wants to include him. He wants to show him this world, but he doesn't want him to be consumed by the world.
He even
there's
says
actually
how...
go ahead. Go ahead.
He just talks about, like, you will have an advantage because you will have both educations.
Exactly.
He's not saying, now you'll learn, like, the streets and you can forget about the real school. He
wanted C to have the whole picture. And that's really important for all of us, is to have the whole picture of the world, because some idealize, like, the perspective that his dad was what his dad could do, and that's the thing, this character was only going to be able to do so much. His dad could only provide so much. And that's why it's such a neat thing with the dynamic of these two characters together, is because they both couldn't provide the whole picture by themselves. Really, they needed each other. This person needed them both to provide the whole picture. And that's what a lot of us are lacking on a day-to-day, is the whole picture. Is like, we want this romanticized, like, we like this romanticized shit, but no, like, here's the real world. Yeah. But you still kind of need to have that romantic perspective, like an appreciation of that, while looking at the world flatly and plainly.
Yeah.
So you can do the most that you can with the two
You can't be tied to like tradition and respect, but society can't survive without some tradition and respect.
And I think that's a lot of what this is about, is tying those two things together. Like practicing a real world approach with those kind of traditional romantic ideas in tow. Yeah. So you drag along that moral compass through just dealing with the shit of life like you need to. And which is what both characters in their own way do. Yeah. You know? Yeah. That's where Sonny several times, like, that this is not your life. This is my life. I have to do this because I have to now. Yeah, and this is skipping ahead a little bit, but there's a scene. It's one of the first scenes of the second act when you have now the 17-year-old version of C, and he's chasing down this kid that owes him money. Yeah, and great scene too. Yeah, and Sonny sees it and is like, "Get the fuck over it! Like, what the hell's the matter with this kid? You know?" And, and like he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like. And he's talking to him. He's like, "Well, this guy owes me $20. He's been dodging me for like 3 weeks." And like Sonny has this really insightful answer, and it's like, "Is he a friend of yours?" I'm like, "No, I don't even like the guy." And he's like, "Well, there you go. You got rid of him for $20."
That's fucking great.
Yeah, and that's so fucking true, man. I can think of plenty of motherfuckers in my life that have owed me money. I was like, "Oh yeah, fuck you." If that's all it takes to get your fucking scummy ass out of my life, all right, cool. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, So we got to the fingering. The fingering. Yeah, I think that was an important part.
I feel like we feel way more fluid when we don't feel like we have to talk about the film linear.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, we kind of bounce around.
Basically, already talked about the ending, you know.
Yeah, a little bit. But the one thing I wanted to say is, like after, before we get to Act 2, there's a scene where basically young C, 9-year-old C, is basically bartending at the bar. He's like serving drinks to these mobsters, and they're giving him tips. Yeah. And then he there's like a craps game going on, which is actually one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Yeah, for sure. And basically, Sonny lets him roll the dice for him, and he makes 11 passes in a row and makes a shit ton of money. Right. Sonny gives him a wad of money. And like he's going home with this money, and like there's this, like his father and his mother, I guess, had found like $600 like in his sock drawer or something, and he's got like $200 more like in his pocket.
Oh yeah, I like they just say it's a lot of money. It's like, oh, you're thinking maybe it's $100 or something, and then they say, "Where'd you get $600?"
He's like, "Where'd you get this? I've been saving it. $600."
Yeah, and again, like it's easy to think like actually keeping it in perspective, like $600 now, like fuck $600, $600 in 1968 is fucking.
I mean, he says, how do you think it would feel having your kid have a bigger bank account than you?
Yeah, exactly.
So we know he doesn't have $600 in his bank account.
All right, so this brings us. So Lorenzo, once he finds out that, okay, his son is bartending for the mafia, and that's how he got this bankroll, he gets pissed off, takes the bankroll, goes down to the bar, and basically confronts Sonny. And they've got like a little macho standoff where it's like, you know, mafia guy saying, you know who the fuck I am, and like Lorenzo trying to be as respectful as he can because he knows what this guy's capable of, but also stressing the fact he's my son, not yours. Mm-hmm. And like, you don't fuck with the guy's family, and you should know that. And like, I really like this scene.
Yeah.
What I wanted to point out here is from a narration point. All right. So there's a line here right at the end of this scene, this first confrontation between Sonny and Lorenzo, and C, as the narrator, says, and that was the last time that Sonny and my father ever spoke.
Oh, yeah.
He says that, right?
Right.
That's not actually true. They speak again in the movie.
Yeah.
But he's not there.
He's not there.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about
the unreliable narrator
totally
checks out.
He's only narrating on his recollections of what happened.
Yeah.
But the movie is actually showing you what actually happened.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And so I kind of like that. I think that was a very clever tool that they use.
Yeah, definitely.
To tell the story.
And that's a very big scene because that's where C is trying to, like, he sees the benefit when they find the money, and he's trying to talk to his dad like, well, but everybody loves him just like they love you. Like,
yeah.
Like, you're both, and like right there is the first parallel drawn between the two characters, kind of cementing that, you know, they're going to be a huge influence regardless.
Yeah, and that's actually I've actually got it in bullet points here. One of the I think a lot
respect
of what
versus fear.
Respect versus fear, because that's his reply. It's like they don't respect him, they fear him.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's in a later scene when, you know, we have 17-year-old C having a conversation with Sonny because he asked him that question, you know, respect versus fear, and Sonny says, well, you want to do both, but it's really, really hard. And so he just says, well, I'd rather be feared because it's more consistent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's fair. It's fair enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's maybe where the character C is going in life. You could hope after this film is that you can kind of learn how to be both.
Yeah.
Toe that line, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. And so basically that sequence of events gets us fully to Act 2.
Yeah.
And so we have him chasing down the dude that owes him money, and then a lot of the beginning of Act 2 is some life lessons from Sonny to C. And
honestly, there's more life lessons from Sonny than Lorenzo most of the time.
Yeah. there is there are like Sonny is a more prominent character, and honestly is the most interesting character in the movie by far. Right. I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He gets all the best lines, all the best.
Oh yeah, he's entertaining as fuck. Like I could watch another movie just him. Like if they want to do a prequel.
Yeah.
They could do that age shit with Chaz Palminteri or whatever.
Right.
The 80-year-old man kicking people and shit.
You know, De Niro's got the hookups because he works with Scorsese.
One of my favorite lines that he has is he's talking about. When he was in prison, he's like, there are only 3 things that you can do in prison.
Yeah, that's a great
lift weights, play cards, or get into trouble. Which one did you do? I read.
So there's 4 things to do in prison.
Which that's the thing that the smart motherfuckers do.
Yeah.
You know? Now and that leads pretty quickly. One of the things that I made a note of that I thought was hilarious when he's like, yeah, we got our social club after him and his buddies grew up and his degenerate ass friends.
Oh,
Yeah, we got our own social club and we've got the jukebox and cigarettes pay the rent. It's like the jukebox and a fucking cigarette machine that pay your rent. Yeah. Fuck, it would have been nice to be living in 1960s.
In New York, in Bronx, New York.
Yeah, there's oh my god. A podcaster I like. He works for NPR, but he's like the main music guy at NPR. Right. And he talks about how when he went to college, like in the 60s, he paid for his tuition by working part-time summer job at a record store. And before he graduated, his college debt was paid off. That's how different of a world that was.
It's so crazy. So crazy.
But I wanted to get back to this respect versus fear because there's this nice little conversation that that C and Sonny are having, and the thing is, Sonny, you can tell he's more open with C than he is with any other character at any point during the film.
Yeah.
And C is like, is it better to be loved or feared? And he's like, that's a good question. He's like, it's great to be both, but that's difficult. But if given the choice, I'd rather be feared.
Right.
And he talks about how, with his guys, he's like, like you see how they laugh. He's like, I know I'm funny. I'm not that funny. Yeah. Like when I tell jokes and basically saying that he treats them just nice enough for them to need him but not turn on him, like he has to walk that fine line.
Which says a lot about Mush. Everyone treats him like shit and he doesn't turn against him.
Mush is a character that, I'm glad you mentioned him because he's kind of like ridiculous. Like,
he's super ridiculous.
Like when they introduce him, they say that like he's the unluckiest guy in the world and that like when he goes to the racetrack, they give him his tickets already ripped up. There's like a scene when they're at the racetrack and they're all excited that their horse is winning, and then he comes down, and they're like, "Oh shit, he bet on the same horse as us," and he immediately, their horse is in the lead, and he immediately tears the tickets in half. He's like, "Well, we got mushed,"
and they leave. They don't even watch the end
of the race.
Yeah. What's funny about Mush is though, there's a scene later where he's like, it's proof that he is still part of the fabric of this social dynamic. Is like, Sonny's going through the bar and he's like, "Oh, give me $500," and Sonny's, "Fuck, tomorrow, man. I'll give you $500 tomorrow." Like, Sonny didn't give a fuck. And like in the crap scene too, somebody gives him fucking money. Like everybody knows, but there's like, fucking Mush. All right, yeah, here you go. Here's Mush. $500, throw it away. Like, whatever. we just accept you here.
No, the craps game is like, I don't want your money touching my money.
Put him in the bathroom. Put a towel over his head.
Yeah, that was great. 3 people deep in the bathroom.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here. So
I thought that character introduction scene was like, I know not to say that Goodfellas invented it, but I felt like with such close proximity to Goodfellas.
No, it is just how like, no, it very much is. It has that intro. Obviously, to me, like this isn't really a mafia story like Goodfellas, but it's kind of in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
to me, Goodfellas is the best of that type of film. They've done quite a few of them.
Yeah.
I don't really put The Godfather on this. Like The Godfather is very much a different thing as far as mafia movies is concerned. But the Goodfellas to me is kind of just untouchable.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, like this is kind of getting off subject, but Johnny Depp did a movie. You want to talk about like stealing? Johnny Depp did a movie called Blow.
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
So watch Goodfellas and then watch Blow, and like I feel like Blow, like on its own, is kind of a good movie if the movie Goodfellas did not exist.
Yeah,
because the thing is, Blow is literally like a completely different thing, but like it's Goodfellas. Like everything, he's basically Ray Liotta.
Yeah,
in this movie, and everything plays out exactly the same way, even though.
Yeah,
like the subject matter and the story, it's not mafia, it's another thing, but like it's literally the same movie. And like the first time I watched it, I was in the theater and I was just like,
wait a minute,
why am I just watching like a worse Goodfellas? This
is that's how I felt about The Irishman. I was like, hey, this would be a good Scorsese movie if he didn't make it 40 years ago.
Yeah, and honestly, the follow up to Goodfellas was Casino.
Yeah.
And that kind of like Casino is a good movie.
Yeah.
But like, and it honestly doesn't do a parallel to Goodfellas. It's definitely its own thing. But like, after you've seen Goodfellas, you're just expecting so much and you don't get it, you know? So after this little, this they're talking about the things you do in prison and whether or not it's better to be respected or feared.
After the fingering and after
the
what you do in prison.
I wanted to bring up this scene because it's. I talked to my brother a couple weekends ago and told him we were doing this podcast. I'm like, yeah, I've got the pick for the next episode. We're doing a Bronx Tale. And he's like, oh, I've seen that movie. I like that movie. And he said that my favorite scene is the bikers in the bar.
Yeah, it's a fun scene.
Yeah, and we're kind of at that spot. So they're having lunch, Sonny and C, and these bikers kind of roll in, go to the bar, and so Sonny immediately smells trouble. He has actually just finished talking about how I live here because I can see everything. I can smell trouble a mile away.
That's one thing that I really appreciated was the availability conversation.
Yeah.
Just being in your neighborhood, your locale, people will respect you more, people fear you. It's like,
yeah,
because he mentions Machiavelli and like that was the takeaway for him from Machiavelli.
Mm-hmm.
So the bikers go into this bar, like a whole bunch of them. They're like literally all the way down the bar, filling the entire bar. And so Sonny comes in, he's like, what's going on here? The bartender's like, well, the lead biker is like, yeah, he's saying he won't serve us because we don't have the right dress code or whatever, you know, like, and he's like, we just wanted some beers. And he's like, that sounds reasonable to me. Go ahead and serve him beer. And then this is great because it's not his bar, but I mean, you can tell that it's his bar. Yeah.
Which is mentioned earlier in the movie too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
and again, a good example of him being a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Stand-up Sonny still. Like, oh, you guys not going to cause any trouble? All right, cool. Go ahead and have some drinks.
So then they all take their beers and they shake them and just shoot them right at the bartender.
Be a bunch of fucking assholes.
And you can see like the Sonny's kind of got that like annoyed like eye roll, like God damn it. And like she goes over and is like, okay, that wasn't very nice. Now you guys have to leave. And they're like, you again, fuck you, get the fuck out of here, you know, before I kick your ass or whatever. And so then he goes back over to the front door and locks it. And comes back and says, all right, now you can't leave. Now you can't leave.
Guys.
That's my brother's favorite line in the movie. And then the mafia crew comes in from the back door with baseball bats and beats the fuck out of these.
Kicking the shit out of their scene. And,
yeah,
a lot of fun. The choice of music has been pretty good through the whole film.
I actually think that's one of the better things about the movie is the music. The doo-wop is fantastic.
Right.
And it's all kind of that 60s era stuff. Yeah. And I love the music.
The choice of songs to scene make a lot of sense. The doo-wop actually being sung by guys on the fucking corner is a nice transitory thing from scene to scene that they do. But yeah, like a lot of the music throughout.
That scene's a Jimi Hendrix song, right?
Shit, which one is it?
Watchtower?
Is it all along the Watchtower?
I feel like Watchtower was
Watchtower plays at some point.
I can't remember.
Is that the song? It might have been.
But I thought I did a really good job with all the music.
Yeah, the only thing
the tone, the setting,
the song choices were right on for each scene.
Like even just the doo-wop harmonies, like at the beginning and definitely at the end of the movie are really nice.
Yeah, they use that to tie everything together.
No, the Watchtower plays later when they're
okay.
That's what I
you're right. You're right.
It's like Leonard Skinner or something plays in the bar scene.
Yeah, no, it's something that pairs with
definitely something off the Easy Rider soundtrack.
Yeah, it's something that pairs with.
All right, well that's escaping me at the moment, so we'll move on. So this is about the time where Jane is going to enter the conversation. He's riding the bus with his father, which that's something we didn't point out. Or like when he was a kid, he would ride the bus with his father all the time, and he actually like enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and, like,
super enjoyed it.
It was like the father-son bonding time. Yeah. And now he's like a teenager, and like he's kind of annoyed that he's being forced to do it. And so he's like, "Get over here, I want to talk to you." And like so, his father's talking to him, and it's almost like an afterthought because
was it Freebird? Sorry.
No, it wasn't Freebird. That's not it. It wasn't a Leonard Skinner song.
Sorry.
Anyway, moving on. We're on to Jane now.
Yeah, get with it, Reese.
Yeah, so he locks eyes with Jane, who is of the African American persuasion, which is a problem in his neighborhood.
Yeah. Fucking
And
Italians.
it's actually like almost
Racist
uncomfortable
Italians.
the way they're eyeing each other, like they're eye fucking each other for a long time.
Like
the
just
scene.
back and forth.
Oh
It goes
my
on
God.
for like 2
Oh
minutes.
my god, yeah. They switched positions multiple times in this eye
That's-
fucker.
Right
so
next
that's
to
one
his
thing you can
dad,
say
God.
about Jane as a character as the movie goes on. Like, she's in the lead.
Yeah.
The whole
Oh yeah,
time.
yeah.
She's
Very
in the lead
aggressive.
the whole time.
Yeah, so yes, so I actually had a note about this. So basically, that's all they do is eye fuck each other. They say nothing.
Yeah,
And it isn't until later that he kind of sees her at school.
yeah. She finally moves into the neighborhood. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, she's moved into the neighborhood, so he sees her at school, and at first he's with his friend, she's with hers,
Right.
and finally he sees an opportunity to get her alone after school.
Yeah.
She's standing by herself, and he goes and talks to her for the first time, and they start the conversation. I love it. He's like, she probably has one of a really unique name like Monique or Danielle, and it's
Yeah.
just like, Danielle, really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Like name like Danielle or Caitlin.
Yeah. But her name's Jane.
Jane.
Just plain Jane.
I think it's like Williams too. Like also.
yeah, it's like
Jane.
Williams or Williamson, something super easy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. In the exchange, he walks her home, and as they're on the way home, they stop, and she's talking about his hat, and she corrects his hat. She's like, "Oh, you don't like this hat? No, I think you look a better way." And she's correcting his hat for him, and she's pulling the lines like,
Mm-hmm.
"You got beautiful eyes." Like, he's supposed to say that.
Yeah. She's definitely got some role reversal throughout.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can definitely tell that, like, because he says, like, when he first saw her, he's kind of like narrating. He's like, she was beautiful, she was classy. He's like
Right.
saying all these great things about her. So this is the first time they're interacting, and he's like clearly like being a nervous fool about the whole thing.
For sure.
And like, so he's basically says, "I'm going to walk you home." They're having a conversation. She says that she likes Italians, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's also weird because he says, my name's Italian. No, wait, it's Sicilian. And she's like, I like Italian.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like, there's a point. Like, I think once they get towards the end of their walk, he's like, because they set a date. Like, we're gonna go to the
Yeah.
movies, and she's like, yeah, meet you here tomorrow. He's like, okay, I'll just be here until tomorrow. And he's like, I mean, I'll be back here tomorrow. And he's like, he says, like, this is basically verbatim. He's like, I'm sorry if I'm saying stupid stuff. I'm just really nervous. And she says, you're not saying stupid things.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, like, because grammatically, she's like way on top of this guy. She basically corrected him without correcting him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of their little interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they set a date.
Oh, I also thought that was interesting that he introduces himself with his real name and not C.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and also like to really cement her character and the character of her character is that she's like, well, he tries to correct like, oh, you can call me C. She's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I like
gonna call you by your
Colodro.
real name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say it, but I like Colojabo better.
Colodro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that definitely
Yeah.
Cements her as like a stand-up character on her
Yeah.
own.
Puts her in the class of Lorenzo, who also refuses to call him C throughout the entire movie.
Yeah,
C or whatever you want to call yourself.
Honestly, that was probably my least favorite moment of Sonny's was like, ooh, I was like, sorry, what's the nickname you're gonna come up with? I'm gonna call you C.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so Sonny's not very creative.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's a gangster.
maybe. So like, you got this guy named Coffee Cake because his face looks like a coffee cake, and Mush because everything he touches turns to mush, and like maybe it's Colodrol's fault for not being interesting. Like
That's what I was like. Oh, we got Mush and the whale and C.
Yeah, and it's like they call him Jimmy Whispers because everything is a secret to him. You know, like
that one was pretty funny.
yeah, that one is good. So basically,
But that also felt like a like direct ripoff of the. They call him Johnny 2 times because he says everything 2 times.
in the papers. Yeah, no, for sure. And like it almost seems like every mafia movie has to have that scene.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of not following the norm on that. So yeah, definitely loses some points on that. And I think that Goodfellas was 92, right? So this was like the year after, I
think it was 90. 90 or 91.
Okay, I was thinking 92 for some reason. Yeah, you're probably right.
90.
90. Okay, so yeah, this is
Full
a
3 years.
Few years after Goodfellas. But anyway, so after they've set this date, so now he's a little worried because he's worried about how his friends are going to feel about him dating a black girl.
Of course.
Is basically what it comes down to. And does he talk to his father first, or
No, he talks to Sonny first.
talks to Sonny first?
And Sonny is I see your note on the backward drive here.
Yeah.
That scene was.
Yeah,
That's special.
so that's what's so gangster. This guy is just the gangster because, they don't say why they're at his house, but they are at Sonny's house, and they drive to one of the clubs, the bar or the social club, I can't remember. But so they're driving, they get into his car in the parking, in his driveway, and then he just goes, and he's driving backwards for like 3 blocks.
Yeah,
all the while driving
it's basically like a block and a half. He turns like 3 times. It's basically like, you could tell it's like New York. He didn't want to go all the way around the block in New York, so he's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to back up. And then I can just, like, he probably does it every day, from his driveway, backs up, and then goes forward,
but
right
all
back
the
to his
while
driveway.
driving backwards for this amount of time is he's delivering this life lesson.
Yeah.
Like, what, just do what you need to do to be happy. Like, doesn't matter what your friends say. Like, you just need to take care of yourself. Which is a stark contrast to Lorenzo's response to this, and again, just kind of cements.
We should stick to our own.
Yeah.
So I have some notes about this. So, so C's worried about hearing it from his friends, and Sonny's like, "Fuck those kids. They're all gonna end up dead or in jail anyway."
Yeah. Which is
and then a classic. Nobody cares. Yeah. And then he said, all that matters is that, like, how you feel about each other and follow your heart. And you're only allowed 3 great women in this lifetime. They're like, like great women are like great fighters, like Joe Louis. And he's talking about all the great fighters that come around like every 10 years and give them all these great life lessons.
And he gives them the test.
Yeah.
That's just like the most wholesome thing.
Yeah. He goes through all this shit. And then he tells him that, like, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to loan you my car for this date. And you're going to give her the test. And the test is, when you pick her up, you lock both doors and then unlock the door for her, open the door for her, let her get in, close the door, walk around the back of the car, look through the back window, and if she doesn't reach over and pop that button for you so that you can get in, she's a selfish broad and you can dump her right away. He's like, well, dump her. He's like, what about all these beautiful things you just said to me? No. The test is the important thing.
Just dump her.
The test is what counts. The door test. Immediately just out the window with all the other shit.
Yeah.
That was a really good that was a really good interaction there. And so then after that, he goes, basically gets this information, this advice from Sonny.
Yeah.
He's got a car lined up for the date, and so then he goes and talks to his dad, and basically he's doing the whole, so Dad, I got this friend, and he's like thinking about dating a black girl. What do you think about that? And like, the stand-up working man kind of gives like worse advice here. He's just kind of like, I can't find anybody in his own race.
I'm not prejudiced. I just think we should stick to our own.
Yeah. That's definitely a line. I think. Almost,
exactly.
Almost word for word.
Yeah.
So cementing Sonny's moral character throughout.
I also
He's a good guy.
I liked how like quickly Z gave up that little deception. He's like, what if I got a friend who's dating a black girl? well, it's me. I'm dating the black girl.
Yeah, and there's almost like there's kind of a moment because after the last thing that is said in the conversation is Lorenzo says to him, "Be careful," like so. Right. Because they're talking about his friend or whatever, and it's like you kind of get the idea, like he's kind of deduced, what's going on here.
And I mean, there is like just the prevalence and the weight of that racial tension in that time in that city. That is an amount of good advice. Be careful, because even though it may be true and good and honest and pure, like people within the setting, within that circumstance, might not think as much. And you might fucking get murdered for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like for both people.
Yeah, for both people. Like,
the black person or the white person. It was you were introducing a much higher chance of danger in your life.
And even there's a scene later, like the scene where shit goes down that we're going to talk about in a second. And one of the black people in the neighborhood are even like, yeah, fuck that bitch too.
That's at the end when shit goes down.
That proves that level of danger there. Like they're even like, no. Turn on anybody.
And you've seen the what is the black neighborhood in early bus ride with young Colodrell, and it's in front of like a record store, and it's like Webster Avenue.
Yeah. And that's where he walks her home too.
And something we also need to discuss here that's kind of been skipped over is the friends that we mentioned earlier that he's like they're going to end up dead or in jail. His two best friends are this greaseball named Slick, who's got his hair slicked back,
and Mario.
And Crazy Mario because he's crazy.
Because he's crazy.
And anyway, just so you know what kind of shit that C is dealing with. These two guys kind of use the N-word with impunity throughout the early parts of the film.
Oh, like in the first 5 minutes of the
film. Yeah. You just immediately.
It's 1960s New York Italians. Like,
get the fuck out of our neighborhood. There's a lot of that going on throughout. Yeah. So somewhere along the line, there's he's got this date set. He's got the advice, and we get more of this. Black guy, he's like pedaling through the neighborhood. I can't remember. He's on a bicycle.
Just a bunch of kids on bikes.
And one of C's two friends, I can't remember which one it is. Probably the crazy Mario guy, if I had to guess.
They all just jump in.
Yeah, just immediately goes over and just starts punching the guy for like no reason. Like, get the fuck out of our neighborhood. And like all of a sudden just
infuriated by his racism.
Just an old fashioned beatdown, I guess.
Yeah. And so they then, as this beatdown is happening, they like, oh, come on, C, get in here. And C's battling the whole time with maintaining all these layers of social conditioning. That's a lot of what the movie's about, is the layers of social conditioning from your father, from your neighborhood, from your community, from all these different expectations. So he's got to jump into some degree into this thing, but he tries his best to not be involved, but in a way that he's still, his friends aren't going to give him any grief over not, like standing up for these guys. So he gets into it, but he doesn't actually do any damage of his own. He just tries to kind of keep the guy down, and then his friends take over and still tries to stop his friends from doing too much damage. And that's where we get what we mentioned earlier. Like, kids say, oh, we see the cops are coming from down the road.
And you don't hear sirens, and they never actually show up on the scene.
Well, this I think is actually where you...
actually, another thing about like the cops in this presentation of 1960s New York, right? That first thing, they were there.
Yeah.
And then they took like 30 minutes to beat the fucking shit out of these bikers. And like 20 minutes of it or 15 minutes of it was beating the shit out of these bikers in the street.
Yeah. And the cops don't show up, right?
Ever. Never.
Is it just demonstrating the priorities of the cops?
Like, or I mean,
it's
black
it could
guys
be.
are going to beat up. Who cares?
It could be. Well, and that's to me the note that I made about that in watching that scene is like, okay, that does kind of lean more into like that first. Is it over parking space?
Yeah.
Like if they took it that seriously and this not seriously at all, it probably wasn't over a parking space.
Yeah.
Indeed. So basically, while his friends are beating this kid up, C's kind of got this like very like pussy way of helping him.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to like
not to use that in a derogatory fashion, but I was just like, God, he's such a fucking pussy.
Yes.
Like, help him.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody thought it, so you can't really apologize for saying it out loud.
He did it in the loosest way possible, just to maintain.
Because he doesn't even say, "Hey, I don't want to." Like he says, "I don't want to hurt you." He doesn't say, "Like I'm trying to help you."
I think he actually says. I think he does say both. He says, "I'm trying to help you, and I don't want to hurt you," but he does just hold him down.
Yeah,
that's all the best that he does.
Yeah,
is he doesn't punch him.
I think there's like a state at like
he's not protecting him until his friend's trying to smash him with a fucking trash can.
Yeah.
But he's also so in fear of what his friends think that he's also not like, hey guys, stop it. He's not pulling anybody off of anybody.
Exactly.
He's basically just trying to be a human shield between this kid and his friends.
Yeah.
So fast forward to big date with Jane. He's got the car. He's all excited. He's all spiffed out. Goes to pick up Jane. Not exactly what he was expecting. Yeah, so Jane shows up. He's got this big smile on his face, and Jane is pissed. Turns out her brother got beat up by a bunch of Italians.
Just so happens.
And
she brought her brother with her.
This is where it gets a little weird, because he's like, what? She's like, were you there? And he says, no. Immediately lies to her. And then she's like, well, my brother's over here in the car. And I told him I was going out with an Italian, and he saw you and said that it was definitely you that kicked his ass earlier. And so basically the brother gets out of the car. He's like, yep, that's him. And they kind of get in an argument back and forth. He's like, no, I was the only one trying to help you. You're lying, blah, blah, blah. So now they're both kind of like lying in this situation, because he was kind of trying to help him. Kids lying about it.
In his own the shittiest way possible, but he was.
Yeah, and so things start to get heated back and forth, and this is where C says something to the brother that he probably should not have said.
Definitely shouldn't have said.
He said the thing.
Yeah, he said the thing.
He said the thing.
It was a derogatory term.
Yeah, it was in the
followed,
heat of the
like preceded by a fucking.
Yeah.
Fuck you, you fucking.
No, it was definitely in the heat of the moment. They were just back and forth at each other's throats, and just fucking just another layer of social conditioning that's just kind of been built into him from his community and from his friends and shit like that. That it just happened. He just said it, you know.
Yeah, and you can tell immediately he like mouths the word like shit. Like
he did a good job of conveying like the instant regret.
For sure.
Yeah.
Basically, before the words even leave his mouth, he already regrets saying it.
Yeah, 100%.
So, of course, they storm off pretty pissed after that.
Yes, they do. And so C returns the car, and Sonny is like, well, why are you back so soon? He's like, he's just like completely dejected at this point. He's like, everything went wrong.
And his dad saw him coming back, too.
His dad saw him coming back. And, his dad's pretty pissed that he drove the car.
Yeah, still having this affiliation with Sonny that he doesn't approve of.
And that's actually where I don't know, that didn't happen yet. So he's walking off, and so then he gets kind of like the car of hoodlums comes up and like, hey, and it's his buddies, and they're like, hey, we're gonna go get some revenge on these black guys down the road, and he's just like basically about to get in the car out of like peer pressure, and he's intercepted. He's intercepted by a pissed off Sonny, who like starts slapping him around a little bit and asking him like, "Where'd you go? Was there a Jane?" Like all this thing, and
basically there's a bomb found in Sonny's car.
Yeah, that didn't go off.
This is the confirmation of the fears of Lorenzo and his cautioning that Sonny is just a gangster at heart. Mm-hmm. And he can't trust anybody. And in this scene where he's slapping around, there's a breakdown from C. Like, I couldn't do this to you because you're the father to me, And so Sonny backs off, and
also it demonstrates how Lorenzo was right, and the going into the added dangers.
Yeah,
there's no like, it's not zero consequences living a life like that.
There are absolute consequences. And the one thing though that it definitely does that I noticed that when he storms off after he lets him go. Like you can see regret in Sonny too.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you want, just let him go. Let him go.
Exactly.
And it's at this point where we get this unreliable narrator, because this is when Lorenzo, having seen C in the car, comes down, knows that there was a little bit of a disagreement here, and immediately it's just like, what the fuck you doing to my son and all this, and like, so this is like the second confrontation between Lorenzo and Sonny, and C was not there to witness it, so we don't get the narration.
Right.
He never knew that this actually happened.
Yeah, the interactions with Sonny and Lorenzo are where like Sonny looks the worst.
They are, and in this one, he's pissed off. This one,
fuck you, fuck off.
Yeah,
this one's a little different. This one's Lorenzo just getting his ass kicked, basically.
Yeah, pretty
like
much.
he just gets slapped around a little bit himself, and he gets like a next time find out what's going on before you open your mouth kind of a thing. And so anyway, C walks off and basically does the same thing that he did the first time he walked off, which is comes across his buddies in the car, and so he gets in the car with him this time, and
this was the scene where it was confirmed for me that C's a fucking pussy.
Yes,
he's like, oh golly gee, here I am driving with some Molotov cocktails at my feet. Yeah. Whatever will I do?
Yeah. So they got Molotov cocktails
blow yourself up.
in the car, and so he is in the back seat. And I think he's right in the middle, right?
So he can't. And it's not a 4-door, it's a 2-door, so he's in there.
This is the scene where he's like, his inner monologue is like, I want it out. Like I don't want to be here.
Watchtower.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that is all along the Watchtower.
Oh, and the song earlier was "Come Together."
Oh yes, you're right. Yeah.
I knew it was something parody.
Interesting choice, because it was actually the Aerosmith version.
Yeah.
Was it not? Was it the Beatles?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the Beatles.
It was the Aerosmith. It was the Aerosmith version, which is weird because
bikers don't listen to the fucking Beatles.
Well, I mean,
Aerosmith version is edgier, so it probably made sense for the scene.
No, it tracked. Yeah, it tracked.
Well, the Aerosmith wasn't it would have been too late, right?
Yeah, but
it's not proper to the time.
It's not proper to the time. The song is, because the song is a Beatles song
thing, because like early 90s, 80s, the Beatles were like really stingy with it.
If you know the song, I do think that the Aerosmith version fits that scene better, because it is more of the Beatles song is more of like a friendlier groove, honestly. Yeah. For a barroom brawl, I do think the Aerosmith song fits better. Yeah. So anyway, going back to the car now, this is where I really like this scene. He's kind of having the inner monologue, and he starts repeating to himself. He's like, I could say, like, I know what my father would be saying. I know what Sonny would be saying. Yeah. And basically, this is when you find out that, all in all, they're telling him the same things. Yeah, all along, you know? And he's a fucking idiot because he didn't listen to either one of them.
You know, you're listening to these fucking idiots that everybody has been warning him against. Sonny specifically has been. When he was talking about when Sonny earlier mentioned the test, he's like, oh, Mario's test? No, not Mario's test. Mario's a fucking psycho.
He doesn't even know what Mario's test is. He's like, what? No, he's an idiot.
He's a fucking idiot. Like, what are you talking about?
So, basically, at this point, they come to a red light, and they stop. And the car behind them, we find out, is actually Sonny and the boys.
Yeah.
Telling them, pulls them out.
Oh, there's the prequel movie, Sonny and the Boys.
Sonny and the Boys. Yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to be a prequel. We haven't got to the ending yet. Well, I guess it could be a prequel. Yeah. Oh, okay. You didn't say sequel, you said prequel. So anyway, so he basically is saved by Sonny at this point.
Yeah.
Pulls him out of the car. He was nervous, wanted to get out. Sonny got him out. And so Sonny basically I think, had a little bit of time to reflect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and again, you could see Sonny's regret immediately in that scene. You can. So, yeah, he definitely is doing the thing he needs to do.
And they have a heart-to-heart about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and at this point. And it's like don't you trust anybody? And he's like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's, I can't. I just can't.
And that's the, the grasp of an acceptance of the reality of what his situation is. Like, yeah, that was an unfortunate thing that happened, but this is par for the course, and this is the proof of Lorenzo's concerns. Like, regardless of Sonny's character, regardless of his moral compass, like, you're fucking with a gangster. There's always an amount of
Yeah.
danger when you're fucking with a gangster. So
Yeah.
and that's proof of concept there.
Yeah, and also this is the first time that you see C start to realize that maybe his father is not such a sucker, and like
exactly.
he actually starts to see it.
Yeah,
Because as the viewer, you kind of see it the whole time, like, well, this could be a problem, you know?
Yeah.
And this is the first time he sees it
right.
and starts to realize. And so he's actually, normally every time Sonny tells him something, he's like, oh, yeah, you're always right. You're always right, you know? And this time he's just like, I couldn't live like that. Not me. That's not my life, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And that's
the first time he's actually rebellious against what he's being told.
Well, and that's the thing, and that just goes back to what Sonny said earlier when they were buying the gun, them trying to buy the gun scene. Which Sonny bounced the kid selling guns out of his neighborhood and slapped all the kids around for that. And he said, like, that's just a reiteration of that. This is my life, not yours. And so at a certain point, that is probably, you know, a fucking point of pride for Sonny to see him actually acknowledge that too. Like, yeah, this isn't my life. And yeah, it shouldn't be your life. So he's been trying to warn you against the whole time.
Yeah. So after this scene where they have the little one-on-one, Jane's back.
Yeah.
Jane's back. She's back.
Yeah, they stop the car and C dismisses Sonny. He's trying to reconnect with him, but C just dismisses him, and that's when, you know, like, oh, just let him go.
Yeah, he actually says let him go in both of these. Like,
yeah,
like he says let him go a lot.
Yeah, but then C, one of the guys, big guy, tells him that
Jimmy whispers.
Yeah, Jimmy whispers. One of the good-looking broad just came by, and she's right around the corner, and so he goes to pursue. And this is another fucking good on Jane that she's just like immediately forgiving.
Yeah,
just like,
I would be okay if she was immediately forgiving, but she's like happy that she can forgive him and not cautious.
Yeah,
she should be a lot more cautious.
No, she should. Yeah. That was a bit unrealistic for sure.
Yeah, and she was like. She's like, my brother told the truth. You did try to help him.
Yeah.
And you remember his reply? His reply was, I told you.
That was like kind of help. Yeah, that was one of the looser.
Come on, Steve.
That was one of the looser parts of the movie was her forgiveness of him so immediately.
Yes.
Eagerness to
especially and part of it, it's hard to wrap your head around. Also, I didn't grow up in the 60s. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I know that they're like the racial tones were definitely, you know, like it's very different today than it was in the 60s, right? And like it was everywhere and more accepted than it should have been, you know, compared to like today's time.
So that's one thing that you can say for if this Jane character is perceived like just fucking matter of factly, I mean, if that was genuinely her response, I mean, to a degree, that shows a bit of fucking maturity to kind of recognize that, like, because he did just say it in a moment of passion, and so you could see her forgiveness of this as a bit of maturity and understanding that he's operating solely off of his social conditioning.
Yeah, it is a little weird that they don't, like, he never, like, apologizes.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he doesn't get punished for that at all.
It goes further. It goes further. She apologizes for her brother.
Yeah.
She apologizes for her brother.
And her brother was in the wrong. Yeah, like she apologized because... Oh, my brother was lying. Like, he was the one that said an upsetting thing to me.
Yeah.
And he did. He was like, well, I understand why your brother reacted the way he, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a little loose, but yeah.
But I can also take the explanation that it was the 60s, and if you found a guy who was nice and white and kind.
Yeah.
And sometimes he said the N-words like, oh, sounds like a pretty good guy.
Well, yeah.
For the 60s, what a good guy.
It's definitely it seems a little far-fetched, but I'm not going to pretend like, because
I'll put a notch on the story about his life.
So, for all I know, this could have actually happened to Chaz Palminteri exactly like that. For all we know,
that's true. He's being honest.
So it's really hard to like get too critical over something that is partially based on somebody's life.
This scene leads to something that's actually pretty loose and goofy too, because right as soon as they have this in exchange, he's like, "Oh fuck, your brother we gotta go because there's gonna be somebody burning some shit down.
Yeah.
Just get in your car.
Yeah,
And,
but he has time to do the door test, though.
Well, yeah. Well, not only does he have time to do the door test, he takes a moment to fucking whoop in excitement as he passes the door test.
Yeah.
I know some people's shit's getting burned down and people might be dying, but woohoo!
Yeah.
I'm getting laid.
That was a good much. Like,
This whole scene with the Jane coming back was definitely one of the probably the loosest part of the movie. Like a lot of it doesn't really add up.
Honestly, it kind of, I wonder if it feels a little bit with how race relations were depicted in the 90s too, of like the plot feels finished now that he's kind of resolved his thing with Jane, and then like, oh, one more thing to wrap up, like this other story.
so
Like, it's very casual using a pretty dark concept, and maybe it wasn't seen as that dark back in
I don't know. I would also say that you could look at it as, because to me, again, like, I think the whole like thing with Jane and to me the racial tension and the racial thing is actually like super secondary to the real story that's involved here, and I feel like a degree of that seems like just kind of forced. Like, we got to have this, we got to put this interaction in to satisfy this acknowledgement of this thing. Yeah. But really, the actual story that's happening is C, Lorenzo, and Sonny. Yeah. Like, I definitely felt through this film that the love interest was a backseat thing. That, like, the racial tension.
It's the least important. Like,
it's the least important. It's very atmospherically important as far as like establishing the time and the tone of the time, and
separating C from both Lorenzo and
exactly.
Sonny.
Yeah, it's very good for a mechanic for that specifically. But no, there's
it definitely feels again heavily influenced by Scorsese, who I feel like most of his movies, if there is a romantic relationship, it is a subplot, not the lead plot.
Yeah, definitely.
So they get in the car, race is over. So at this point, we kind of skip from what they're doing over to the hoodlums. The goons. And the goons are throwing the cocktails through the windows of the record store,
shooting them up,
and doing a drive-by.
All the stuff. And then as they're like getting ready to drive away, one of them did like the worst fucking.
Yeah, one of them did
did an underhanded roll.
One of them did the scared bitch thing that you never do with a Molotov cocktail, which is an underhand slide. Yeah, no, they need to break. That's the bit. A Molotov cocktail breaks. So, you don't just kind of gently fucking curl it in there. You make that shit break.
So one of the dudes from the record store picks up this unbroken bottle and throws it at the cars that's driving away, goes through the back window, ignites.
Well, I think it breaks on the car, but the window was open. Yeah. So it all just went right in.
Yeah.
Right into the cocktails that are at his feet.
And so they die.
Yeah.
They fiery death.
Hoodlums die. Satisfying. And I gotta say, okay, this needs to be said. I had seen this movie probably, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 8 times before in my life, before I watched it with you two a week ago today. And that was the first time that, like, there were, like, cheers. Because most of the time I watch it by myself, and you guys are just like, yeah! It's like I almost feel like if I was in the theater right now, there'd be, like, a standing ovation.
Fuck yeah, I would.
Then, like, as the car is, like, burning, like, the camera, like, does this extra long take of the car just burning, and like John, I think you were like, just watch him burn. Well done.
No, it was good.
I can't help myself. I get excited when I see people that deserve it get it. Like when we watched The Joker in the theaters, when he shot that motherfucker in the face, I had to laugh my ass off because it was fucking awesome. Like, you got that coming to you, motherfucker. Justice.
I don't think I was expecting them to get that much justice for that kind of crime of that period of a movie. I was not. I was like, fuck that's justice.
Yeah, and there's something to be said. Like there's a lot to shit on C in this last little segment here,
right?
Because he's clearly a fucking idiot and a pussy. But like his best friend is a mob boss, and like literally is his highest quality friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
mob
exactly,
boss is
yeah.
the best thing he's got going in the friend
for
department.
sure.
Yeah.
And the mob boss tried to steer him away from these goons.
Yeah.
The whole time. And so now he's like immediately just super like, oh fuck, what did I do? What did I do? Like Sonny saved my life. And that's so this scene when he's watching.
So Jane and he get to the scene.
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck you, you pussy. It resolved without you. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't need your fucking help.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, this was just a life lesson for him to see his friends burn corpses, basically.
Yeah, and conveniently, Jane's brother is also at the scene.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden is much more friendly towards.
All forgiven.
Yeah. He's like, hey man, you need to fuck
Yeah.
out of here right now, man.
Yeah,
These guys are-
he sits there reflecting like, oh my god, like I don't know if I should be sad or happy, but like I'm grateful. And, like,
happy
yeah,
to be
you should
alive.
be grateful, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And this is where like, you know, the brother's like, yeah, the boys are getting crazy, and the boys are getting crazy because the boys are over there like, yeah, get out of here, you white motherfucker. Yeah, fuck that bitch too. And I was like, damn,
Yeah.
fuck that bitch too.
Were they talking to Jane there?
They were. They're like, fuck that bitch too. Racial tension is a dangerous thing, man. Nobody's safe.
That was a good ad. That line was a good ad.
Yeah, dude.
For sure.
Crack me
Fuck
up.
that bitch too. So then he's like, I gotta go. I was in that car. You guys understand? And so he just wanted to go thank Sonny. And so he runs back to the bar. Gets to the bar. It's very crowded. He's kind of Sonny sees him at the door. He's like, hey, get in here. And he's like feeding his way through the crowd. This is when you see some other suspicious looking hoodlum riding up on Sonny.
One guy not smiling.
One guy not smiling. And this is the end of Sonny.
Yeah.
Bullet to the back of the head.
And so this is one of the loosest things in the movie for sure.
The
Because he clearly shot him in the back of the head.
he did shoot him in the back of the
And
head.
this is followed by an open casket scene.
it is
And there's like
followed by-
there's a splash of blood in the bar.
Yeah, so we know there's an exit.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, you know, for the sake of suspension of disbelief, you've got to just imagine then that it just so happened that the bullet was the perfect trajectory to go directly through the eye socket the right way, so that there wouldn't have been and at the time that Sonny's eye was open also, so he would still have an eyelid intact.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't just
I'm
be
a-
his
giant
skull
hole in
kind of
his
like
face.
popped open, like kind of
Right.
like how a baseball would
Yeah.
split, so they could just kind of patch it back.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Yeah.
a hole.
Hey, well, so this actually, probably my favorite film of all time is The Godfather, and I'm a little more forgiving of this particular fact because I John, I know you haven't seen it yet, and
Right.
we will watch The Godfather sometime soon. Without too many spoilers, basically, the beginning of The Godfather is Marlon Brando as The Godfather. It's his daughter's wedding day, and he's granting basically no Sicilian. There's this thing where no Sicilian can refuse a request for a favor on his daughter's wedding day. So there's like a
Right.
line
Come
of
to
people.
me
Yeah.
on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Yeah. There's a line of people waiting to speak to him, and one of them is this funeral director, and basically the guy's it was like a thing where his daughter was raped. And
Right.
he wants the men that raped her to be killed,
Right.
and there's this whole thing where he's like, well, that's not justice. Your daughter's alive, you know.
Right.
And he's like, finally, he's just like, you know what? I'll take care of it. On the day of my daughter's wedding, I'll take care of it. He's like, but there may come a day where I ask a favor from you, and
Right.
you will fulfill that favor if that day comes. It may not come.
I'm gonna make him an offer.
So
Kill
then-
him.
Later in the movie, his son dies horrifically.
Right.
Literally dies with something like 700 gunshot wounds.
Right.
Literally
Right.
is just completely full of holes.
Right.
Yeah.
And he calls on him on that day. He's like, I need you to use all of your skills to make him look like him again, so that his mother can see her son at the funeral.
Yeah, fair. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
And there is a likelihood that it could have been something so specific as to it could have passed exactly at the right trajectory to not create a giant thing, but
So
the chances are kind of slim.
I also
Both-
watched 6 Feet Under, which was a really great series on HBO, and you saw some of the shit that they could do.
Oh yeah.
but
So
remember,
you can
this
do
is the
some shit. You can do some
60s.
shit.
This is the
Yeah,
This was the
this is
60s. This was the 60s.
So both the bullet wound, open casket,
Yeah.
what we're building to. I don't think we even mentioned the open casket yet.
Yeah.
It's you did. You
Yeah,
did.
okay, you
mention that,
But both this and the weird time discrepancy with the cops getting up to the
Yeah.
apartment are the kind of things where I understand they do not detract from the movie.
They don't.
They're just a little distracting in the moment, but it's
Yeah.
not like,
Well,
no,
it was
no.
a bad movie because his
Yeah.
head
Well,
is
Yeah.
not
That's the
blowing
bit,
open.
and that's
Yeah.
why my first pick was a film we watched. Was
Yeah,
Rubber,
exactly,
To not
Rubber.
hang up too much on these things, and,
Yeah.
and it's actually a fun exercise to try to figure out the scenario.
Yes, yeah.
And as what that we did in just now in this podcast, it was a fun exercise trying to
Yeah.
figure out how these things could have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
cool.
think but people get hung up on those
Oh, they
things where
absolutely do.
it's fun to discuss those and
Yeah.
point them out, but people think that then that's a bad thing about the
Yeah,
movie.
no,
it's a
no,
bad
it's
movie.
it's
Yeah.
it's
just
a good
not.
exercise it's a good thing to be conscious of, and that's why I love the last film we did so much, is because it helps you as a viewer be conscious
Yeah.
of like putting that thing in place. So like,
Yeah.
as long as the thing doesn't detract from the story, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's the
Yeah.
only thing that matters. As long
Yeah,
as the story
and-
is moving forward and nothing takes away from it, then the little details, who gives a shit? I don't know if you ever watched Tank Girl.
Mm-mm.
So Tank Girl is a fucking 90s movie about a comic book.
Yeah.
There's a moment, and this is like post-apocalyptic wasteland. She's like fucking with, like doing a raid on this big bad corporation soldiers, and she knocks a guy out that's on a watch with a bowling pin.
Yeah.
No fucking way she would have had a bowling pin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Story keeps on moving.
Yeah.
Keep on going. Whatever. Who gives a shit? You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those things.
So we're at the funeral, open casket, and C comes into the funeral and sees all the normal characters,
You know,
kind of
flowers everywhere.
Yeah,
There's a
flowers
big point on
everywhere.
that.
But the thing he notices is that
Nobody cares.
nobody cares. Just like Sonny said, they're all just laughing and carry on conversations as if none of it ever happened, the same way they always were.
Yeah.
And
And they all also points out they're basically, it's a tradition to have a competition to who
Yeah.
can give the biggest
Yeah.
flowers, but none
Yeah.
of them really care.
yeah,
Everything
I
is
don't
the
really care.
competition.
So this is he's basically standing, like everybody kind of clears out and he's standing at the casket, like paying his final respects. And this is where enter Joe Pesci playing Carmine, who we find out now is basically the guy who got hit with a baseball bat earlier that led to the shooting that he witnessed 8 years previous.
Which I feel like if this were like a Marvel movie or something, in this scene, Joe Pesci comes on screen, I feel like you'd be like a
Yeah.
full cheer in the
Yeah,
theater.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you can, if you go back and rewatch the scene, they do try to like cloak the fact that it's Joe Pesci, but
Yeah.
his voice is
Yeah.
completely
No, I-
undeniable.
I
Yeah.
noticed it the second time through, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the scene as they do a scene of the funeral home of people entering, and you see Joe Pesci get out of the car and
Right.
start walking in. So
Yeah.
he's actually in 2 other scenes other than this one. But basically, he just says that he's taken over Sonny's territory for the time being, and if you ever need anything, come see me. C is like, I think I'm probably
Yeah.
done hanging out
Yeah.
with you motherfuckers.
Well, the great thing, too, is that, you know, he gets the opportunity to ask, like, is it really about a parking spot? And he says, no.
Yeah.
You'll understand when you're older.
Yeah,
Like,
which
it's
is something
still-
that he is said to him a lot in the
Yeah,
film.
no, it's really the motif of the whole film is kind of that, like
Yeah.
the experience of age and like the changing perspective of experience. You know,
Yeah.
like you get experience and then you actually start to understand things, but you have to have the experience to actually understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So basically, Pesci, he ends his cameo with like, again, you need anything, you come see me. And then we get a surprise visit, last of all, from Lorenzo, who
Yeah.
pops in all of a sudden. And he's like, Dad, what are you doing here? I came to pay respects to your
Yeah.
friend. And he has a little moment with the dead body and says, basically, I never hated you. I just, like, didn't like that you made him grow up so fast. And
Yeah.
and basically he's like, take all the time you need. I'll be over
Right.
here waiting for you. And so C has this last little moment with Sonny, and he said, you hear that? My father didn't
Right.
hate you. He's like,
Yeah.
nobody cares, right? You were wrong about that one.
Yeah. And that's when he says
Wasted talent.
And Sonny was a degree of wasted talent. And another nice thing in this scene too is that Lorenzo finally calls Claire Giroux C.
Yeah, he calls
You know,
him C in this scene.
Comes full circle. And the last bit of monologue too, he says one of the things he learned was to accept people for who they are.
Yep, he said, it kind of closes. They kind of have a doo-wop that starts to come in. That start to like kind of grows in volume, which is kind of ending the movie like it started. Which I'm always a fan of that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with a kind of an epic tale.
Yeah,
like this
and he's
anyway.
kind of like basically surmising what he's learned, and it's like he said. I learned the greatest thing, which the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, and that the choices you make will affect your life forever.
Yeah. It's the big takeaway is to accept people for what they are, and be conscious of your choices, because that's everything. And then it just comes right back to the experience thing, and that's the thing that they were both, Sonny and Lorenzo, trying to deliver in their own ways.
If he just listened to his two dads from the beginning, there'd be no conflict.
Exactly, and it just would have been great. And the funny thing too, like about the whole setup of the movie, like his parents were like, "You're gonna go into that bar," but like, well, you guys are never around, and it's literally like two doorways, and he's in the fucking bar.
Also, I meant to say that the scene where he's going through his basement for the first time and showing like how to get to the bar from his own basement.
It's right fucking there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Lorenzo even says, "She's like, tell him how am I going to keep him from the bar? It's like literally next door."
But it felt like such a cool moment of transferring from one world to another. It was very that whole sequence was really cool with the basement and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I like there were some of those intro scenes like we kind of skipped over, like the interaction between young C and Lorenzo, and he's like the mother like blaming him right away, like he was at the bar. He's like tell your father why you were at the bar. I wasn't at the bar. And he's like, tell the truth. I was at the bar. He's like, why'd you lie? I took a shot. And he's just like, really? You're going to let this happen? He's like, hey, you took a shot. What can I say? Like, I kind of like respect that, because I didn't have like that dad that like we had such a close relationship, like, so there definitely were some qualities in Lorenzo as a father that like, are pretty admirable.
No, it felt like a very wholesome
relationship. And I can really appreciate Lorenzo as a father character, like doing the best he can to do what he can for his son and give him these lessons kind of in passing, because he's got to do what he's got to do. I mean, he didn't have any fucking choices. And I definitely identify with that, with having to work as much as I have to. I've missed a lot of my, kids' early life, and it's just because of that, just that survivability, like just having to survive. And and there's still a lot taken, and there's still a lot delivered in that exchange, like C still took a lot from his dad, even though, he got caught up in other shit and his dad was always working. Like those bits that you get from that father figure in that situation still hold really true. And like my dad wasn't around a whole lot, one, because I fucking moved out here, my parents separated. But even like the littlest things that he did and like just who he was still had a huge impact on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like that's there's a lot there just in that. Who your father can be, who a parent can be, even though you might not have a lot of direct exposure and direct connection with, like, can still mean the world, in your developing years.
Yeah. So, in summation, it's time now. I'm going to say, fuck, this movie is flawed, but forgivably so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Like, it's an entertaining film. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend that you do see it. It is Robert De Niro's directorial debut. You gotta say, he's an actor. Yeah, I'll do a little bit. He's an actor, not a director. He only directed one more film after this. I don't think he's the best director. It's not the best directed film.
No.
I was also really impressed. I went into it really knowing nothing except for it was a father-son story and the two actors in it. I would have guessed like the roles were reversed.
Yes. I didn't want to watch the movie when I first heard about it, because I was like, I read the summation. It's like, wait, Robert De Niro plays the bus driver?
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked.
Yeah. So that he not casting himself as kind of
it was actually
character.
And that is something that John brought up on the movie night, is the casting in the movie is actually really fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a lot of not so well-known people. The two Calogero, the 9-year-old and 17-year-old version, look like they would be Robert De Niro's son. Both of them.
Yeah.
For sure.
and they look like each other. Like the 17-year-old looks like a 8-year-old. Or 8 years older version of the 9-year-old
Yeah, it
version.
worked out very well for sure.
I also thought the 9-year-old version was a lot more impressive. I thought his performance.
Yes,
was
No,
great.
he was better than.
I would have
he
liked
honestly
he was.
better
the
than
young version go a lot longer. but-
Which kids are usually bad actors, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that was
I
impressive.
think wasn't that the kid from what was that monster movie with fucking Monsters Under the Bed?
I don't know, but his name is
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the same actor, but
I think I feel like it is.
Same actor as what?
Little Monsters.
No, that's
No.
Fred Savage.
Is that for a second?
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Fred Savage. Anyway, his name is Francis Capra, and he hasn't actually done a whole lot of shit. Maybe he has. I don't know. Check him out.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
But anyway,
yeah, it was great.
He's amazing
so
now.
the pluses for me are like I really like the cast. I like the music,
Yeah.
and the writing is really where it's at. The adaptation of the writing to the big screen
Yeah.
definitely falls flat in a lot of spots. And
Yeah,
that's
for
where you can
sure.
see. I wish I could have seen Paul Terry's one man show.
Oh yeah, I'm
That's
sure.
that's what I would like to see.
That would have been fantastic. No, I think the writing overall, like the takeaway for me is the plus of the movie is the dynamic from the characters, that fathers and son story that happened. And I'm a big sucker for anything New York anyway. So I got it there. But there's definitely a lot of flaws. And the acting could have been better. The 17-year-old and Jane too.
Jane's not the best actress.
She's not great.
No.
So they were missing a little bit there, but yeah, overall, like the takeaway is good.
Yeah.
Still a fun experience.
Yeah, the performance are definitely driven by Chaz Palminteri and Robert De Niro.
Yes.
Yeah, oh,
Like,
absolutely.
that's
For
the
sure.
performance right there.
Yeah, I mean, if this motherfucker wrote the thing and it was his one man, of course, it's driven,
Practiced it for
it's driven by
however
him,
long.
you know.
Yeah.
So
He is definitely a very magnetic character. Yeah, it's very easy to root for the bad guy.
He probably gave Robert De Niro like tips for playing. It's like, no. When I do it like this.
Yeah. yeah, and across the board, like all along, like I said, like he did some bad shit, but it was bad shit for arguable reasons. You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he did do violence, but like you never see him do like he never just like kicked a fucking puppy, you know?
Yeah.
Unprovoked violence.
Exactly, like
Yeah.
even the shooting. You saw somebody in his neighborhood get attacked with some guy with a fucking ball bat. Like he still, without any other information, in that moment was defending his neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, he did it with force and he killed a motherfucker, but it's his neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Indeed.
so. But yeah, satisfying film for sure. Has its flaws, but every film does.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Reese, any final takeaways?
I'd say fuck. I feel a lot different about this movie after talking about it for 2 hours. I feel actually a lot more positive.
Yeah.
I was kind of mid on it before, but I really liked it.
Yeah, and that's when you dive into the ideas, and like to me, for sure, the real heart of this movie is that triangular relationship between the two fathers and son.
Yeah, that's really the whole movie.
And a lot of the other stuff is extra, and a lot of it could have been done better. But like the core of that is still good enough that it definitely there's a good takeaway from it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to close saying the reason I chose this movie, I wanted to do a father-son movie. I had it between this and a couple others.
Right.
Because we started off with a mother-daughter movie, episode 1, and we've kind of come full circle. And I kind of like those types of films, and I wanted to do the other side of it. And the reason I chose this one is I like the fact that I think it's a really solid movie with a really good story. And I like the fact that it's flawed because it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we don't really want to fuck with something that's like perfect. It doesn't say. At that point.
Maybe at some point. Well, I mean, I'm sure. Hey, we did it. The week 1, man. Episode 1. It's kind of hard to find too many faults with everything everywhere all at once.
Well, so everything is based on everything's relative. Everything's based on perspective. And I've talked to a couple people about that movie, and I've heard just a couple people say like, "Oh, this fucking movie's stupid. They couldn't get into because it's too over the top." And so like a lot of processing art, of whatever kind, is based on
subjective.
It's subjective. It's based on perspective. It's based on palette as well. And for a movie like that, say you're gonna if it's watched by, a super religious conservative white American, they're
Yeah.
gonna like there's a dildo scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to be able to process the rest of what's in that film.
Your version of a perfect movie, a perfect 5 out of 5 star movie, is going to be different than mine. It's going to be different than Reese's.
Oh, of course.
With,
of
like,
course. Yeah,
like
that's-
there's
that's
not going
the
to be
bit.
any movie
That's the
made
bit.
that it's like everybody agrees is a 5 star out of
Yeah.
5.
Well, and so
Everyone-
to
everybody's
me, particularly, like, there's a lot of movies that are like some of my favorite, most adored films that are riddled with flaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arguably by other people, but to me, those flaws are fucking awesome. You know?
yeah.
Like,
Well, you there are flaws, but you don't see them. Like
Yeah.
it's like me.
well,
like,
it's
I'm
not
the
even-
biggest apologist in the world. Silver Lining Playbook, to me, there's like that movie's perfect.
Right.
I wouldn't
Well,
change
it's-
anything. I wouldn't
it's not
change anything.
even- and like for me, it's not necessarily that like I don't see the flaws. Like I look at the flaws in a different light. I think that's a big part of it is just like how you process those flaws.
Yeah.
Because like a movie that is going to be picked sometime. I don't know when I'm going to pick it, but fucking Brain Damage. That movie's got all kinds of flaws to a lot of people, but goddamn, that movie is fun
Oh,
as
God.
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Like effects. There's a lot of technical things that people can argue about as far as effects, like we're doing with the gunshot wound to the face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Like, and it's
Yeah.
how those
Nobody
flaws can
cares.
play into the fucking movie as well. That
Yeah.
kind of makes them something a little bit more than just a flaw.
Yeah.
All right, so a little sneak peek into a future pick of John Brown.
Yeah, it's a.
I now turn to Reese. We're gonna be doing another one of these here, and there's a chance, a very small chance, that the next episode could be 1 week from tonight. Very small,
Very small.
but possible.
Possible.
Yeah, so you can
Plausible.
get back-to-back weeks. But anyway, Reese, what are we doing? What are we watching?
Do you want to talk about theaters before or after I say that?
That's your call.
Okay.
They're both you, so whatever order you want to do it.
I'll just say my pick. I feel like it. I want to get a little more obscure with my picks, but I have like,
Just do it.
unfortunately not this week.
Yeah.
I have some like real top of the list stuff that I just really want to watch, and I love sharing.
I mean,
with
we
people.
gotta get some of the stuff out of the way. So
You're writing down your guess. You probably are gonna guess it. I have it on the screen. We can say it at the same
Right.
time.
Hey, it's one of two.
I'll say probably it was one of two, and then you watched one this weekend. Actually,
Oh.
honestly, Jesse James would be a pretty high
Yeah.
pick for me too. But you're just trying to.
You're
take
higher
it
on that
all.
movie than I am. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was.
Oh, I mean, I'll convince you. It's incredible.
No, it was very good.
So I'm going with broadcast news. Is that what you wrote down? Yep. It's such a nice, good movie.
I don't think I've ever
Easy.
seen it. Who
I'm excited about this pick because on Letterboxd, that is your highest rated film, Reese. If you sort by your highest rated films,
Yeah.
Broadcast News pops up. I mean, granted, it's all fives. It puts all your five
but I would
stars.
bet it's at the top.
You've only got
because
like a handful with 5 stars, and
Yeah.
Broadcast News is one. It's the first one that pops up. It probably does alphabetical.
or it's
but-
because I've given that one 5 stars the most. Because I've probably given it 5 stars every time
Oh.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know how it orders it. But
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
it is B for broadcast.
Okay.
I don't have the year right this second, but yeah, it's John Hurt. No, not John Hurt.
Starting my notes right now.
Yeah.
William Hurt, and William Hurt's someone I've never been big on, but this
Right.
movie is like, oh, okay, he can act.
Right.
Holly Hunter, which this movie gave me like the biggest crush on Holly Hunter.
Really?
Yes, she is freaking adorable.
In a
in this
MILF
movie.
kind of a way.
This is pre-MILF. This is like
Yeah,
her
sure.
breakout role.
Okay.
And then Albert Brooks, who I think he's kind of take it or leave it for me, but he's great in this one.
I always thought that I always called Albert Brooks serviceable. He's never bad.
No, he's not. He's great in Drive. If you ever seen Drive.
Yep. Seaman Drive.
And then speaking of,
he did a nice little movie with Meryl Streep, which Meryl Streep just makes every movie better. But
I just watched this.
Defending Your Life.
Yes, Defending Your Life.
Yeah, it's actually like not a bad movie.
No, it's really fun.
It's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun movie.
But speaking of Spanglish, this movie is directed by James L. Brooks, who directed Spanglish.
Okay.
And is one of like the showrunners of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
this is just
I'm actually really excited about this one because it's a movie I have not seen and I have wanted to see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I haven't seen it. I have known nothing about it. So
Well, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
It's
good. It'll be a good one.
I won't say any more then, but it is currently only available to rent or purchase. It's not streaming anywhere. But if you are a physical media collector, how I got introduced to the movie is that it is on the Criterion
you
Club.
sucker, I'm gonna have to buy it.
I own it. I own it. But you probably will buy it because
I
you
probably-
probably will love it.
I probably have to buy it. Yeah. The fact that you can't stream it anywhere kind of sucks.
Yeah, you can't even stream it on the
It's
Criterion
gonna make
channel.
rewatches hard for me.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to buy it now, it's $10 on Vudu. It's not that bad.
$10. Oh, you can buy it on Vudu.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can buy it on Vudu,
Okay.
Amazon, YouTube.
I thought it was like $17 or something when I looked.
Well, yeah, probably, but it might. Oh, you might probably looked at Apple TV. It's $18 on Apple TV.
The Voodoo must have it on a special right now because they were both 18 when I looked last week.
Yeah.
Because I assumed that you were going to be picking this movie. I'm like,
I'll
how much
just-
is this going to cost me?
I'll just go and say you will like it. So
Okay.
it's
I have no
even
doubt.
for the
I have no
worth
doubt.
the rewatch, it's worth the $10.
So that's what I thought interesting. Like looking, like I appreciate you getting me into the letterbox thing. It's cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, like being able to I just rate them on a star. I don't leave verbal reviews. I don't like to leave verbal reviews because I don't want my review to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the worst thing is like shitting on somebody
Well, and
else's version of.
they don't do anything. Like so,
No, they don't.
I'm a huge proponent of Shudder. I love Shudder, and there's a lot of the time. One thing I appreciate about that streaming service, while it is like all horror, they put on a lot of just really weird and interesting shit. And one of the things I hate the most is see reviews that are like, "This shouldn't be on here. This doesn't fit." And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, just shut the fuck up. And like most of the time, it doesn't do anything. Or if you try to leave like a really effectual review, you might be giving too much away from the film anyway. But then again, it's all subjective, so it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I would say
art, the big thing
star reviews
is
in a way,
you
too.
like it or don't like it. Like that's the
Yeah.
only thing that matters with art.
yeah, no.
Like so the star reviews are the same. Like you can rate it 1 to 5 stars, but you can do half stars. So like if
Right.
you think about it on a scale of 10, like so 3.5 stars is a 7 out of 10.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like for me, I just kind of think of it like if the movie's a 3, it's good. If it's a 4, it's great.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in great territory, and I
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
think about it that way when
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about a rating. For
No,
a movie.
it makes more sense for like just a base scale rating like that. It just gives you a good idea, and that's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
you can. That's all you really, I feel, should have or need to have in getting into some
I
art.
really like
I have been like,
Letterboxd's community and their view on movies because it's not necessarily mainstream.
Sure.
It's a very like
Right.
not film bro, but
Yeah.
like a cinephiles like
Sure.
website, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like
Yeah.
Rubber would have a higher rating on Letterboxd than it
Right.
would on like IMDb.
yeah, for sure,
Sure.
for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
because they're
yeah.
a little more film literate. There.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nice.
Also, you brought up earlier that like I was stalking your letterbox. 100% true,
Yeah.
and like I will continue to do so. Thank you again for turning me on to it.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
getting the
Because
account
that's
set
the
up.
beautiful
this
thing.
week.
Like let's see your top rated films. Well,
Yeah,
like I respect your opinion on films. Like I might watch broadcast news and think that was a great movie, but for me it's a 4. You think it's a 5.
yeah,
That's fine.
Yeah.
We're not really in disagreement.
No.
It's just for that movie, it fits for you. That's perfect.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
perfect movie to you.
yeah.
Just like to me, Silver Lining Playbook is a fucking perfect movie. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with it in my eyes.
Right.
But no, I appreciate that you turned me on to that tool, and I will continue to use that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to get signed up with it.
Yeah, if anyone,
yeah. I took John and I literally took hours to like. I actually went through his entire list,
Yeah.
just like clicking because you can like. There's a little button where you can click seen
Right.
it, and like so I just went through his entire list and clicked all of his movies that I had seen. I
Right.
started out that way.
yeah,
Right.
That took forever because he's got like 85 fucking
Yeah.
pages of it.
Yeah.
He's got like 4,000 movies on it. It took forever.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
somehow I
I'm
even
excited to
missed
get
some of the
into it.
ones that he had seen.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then I just started like randomly like, okay, like one way to do it is to look it up by actor.
yeah. It's,
Right.
click it,
Like,
either
yeah.
go director or actor. You
Right.
just go through their whole
just like,
filmography.
Yeah, and
you
that's going to be good because I really am trying. I really want to dig through all the directors and
yeah.
writers. that
So get your account on there.
are
You can see.
important.
I think Reese, you said you were probably like 99.9% accurate.
Probably,
if
yeah.
Letterboxd says that he's seen it, he's seen it. If it says
Right.
he hasn't, he hasn't.
Right.
I'm probably more like 92% because
Sure.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
into it.
occasionally there'll be a movie where like I watch it and then a week later I still haven't reviewed it or whatever on Letterboxd, and so I forget about it.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll find those, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate.
I also have movies that I've seen and like I've been in there and I'm just like I don't want to click on it because I've seen it, but like it's been so long I don't really remember it all that well.
Yeah, and I think that's
Like,
super fair. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the time, if you've seen something long enough ago and the circumstances in the watching of it, like you're left with nothing but an impression, and an impression is just an impression. You know, it's hard to really rate.
It's like an opinion of an opinion of a movie.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. That's why we were talking about Tigerland the other day, and like I remember
love that
loving
film.
Tigerland, but I don't remember really anything. I know that it fucking was like, it's a good fucking film, but that's all I know. And so I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving a review. Like I'll share that opinion with people, but it's based on just that impression. So I'd have to have another experience to really feel good about the assessment.
This is Letterboxd is like kind of why I'm never in need of something to watch, because like if I'm in the mood for something to watch, if I'm like, God, I love Get Out, I would love a movie that's really similar to Get Out. I can go on Letterboxd and someone's got like made a list of like movies that make you feel the exact way you felt at the climax of Get Out, and it's like 10 movies. And I'm like, cool, I haven't seen 3 of these. It's the most.
The suggestions are nice for sure.
Yeah, and you can make your own list. That's really fun. You can make your wish list, your watch list. You can list out all the movies you own. I have like a list on there of all the movies I have on Vudu. It's such a great website.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it for sure.
All right, so I think that all that's left is for Reese to tell us what you should be going to the theater to see this week.
Yeah. I think the obvious pick this week is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the animated one. Have either of you seen Into the Spider-Verse?
I did see that.
Dude, I haven't. The last time I saw a Spider-Man movie, Tobey Maguire was the star.
Fuck all those. Like I did really enjoy it.
I did see.
You liked Into the Spider-Verse.
I will say,
Into the Spider-Verse.
I saw the trailer for that movie, and I thought it looks interesting.
It's very interesting.
It's like half animated or it's animated.
Well,
right?
it's like 3D, like CGI, but they like play with frame rates. They play with animation styles.
They do all kinds.
They
of
go
shit.
in and out of 2D, 3D. It's really cool.
Now, I would definitely say that the precursor to that film was definitely the best Spider-Man, and definitely I don't give a shit about any kind of live action. Like when it comes to those, so it's the same thing when you take something animated and adapt it to live action. I'm defaultly less interested.
Yes.
And I've always felt that way about all of pretty much any comic book movie. Because it's the same thing. You're taking this thing that exists in this animated space, and you're making it live action.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, like to care about a comic book movie, I would rather it feel more like a comic book than feel real. Yeah.
Someone pointed out to me that the Into the Spider-Verse is the first ever theatrically released superhero movie. Yeah. Animated superhero movie. Right. And that just blew my mind. Yeah. It's like, how did we not get like, in the 70s and 80s, all these animated Spider-Man?
To me, it makes just so much more sense. It feels right. It makes everything... It makes everything much more palatable. And,
it works. It's incredible. Yeah. The first movie is incredible. If you haven't seen it, Dustin, I can lend you my Blu-ray.
It is really good. The first one was very good.
From what I've heard, the sequel just lives up to the hype of the first one, which is really impressive. And then there's honestly not a lot else in theaters.
Yeah, same shit.
Like The Little Mermaid came out. Like
I could care less.
Don't go see Little Mermaid. No. Not for any weird, stupid racial issues, but like it's a dumb, pointless remake of a movie that's not gonna have any new ideas.
No, it's just like, shit. It's the same as it was before. If you haven't seen Evil Dead,
Evil Dead's still in theaters. I'd still recommend it.
Guardians. Is that all we got? Is it all the?
Guardians 3. Guardians 3 is still in theaters. Yeah. It's kind of a slow week, except for Spider-Man is a huge release. So
yeah. Okay.
I'm going to see it in IMAX tomorrow.
All right. Nice. Yeah, I was looking the other day. I wanted to go see a movie, and man, I was just underwhelmed at my choices.
Yeah.
I really wish there were like theaters showing
God and Margaret and
old films and just weird
and,
things.
There are, but it'll be like they're getting somewhere in Fort Wayne's getting Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's gonna play on a Thursday. Period. Like one Thursday.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Now
That's
that's
all
why
Totoro.
I want to do what I'm
Good
hoping
old
to do
Totoro.
in the next couple years here
Yeah.
to maybe solve that problem, because I would love that. Did I tell you about the movie All About Evil I saw? On,
No. All About
Shudder?
Evil?
All About Evil.
No.
It's a little dorky, but it's super fun. It has, I can't remember her name. She was in the Netflix show Russian Doll.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Natasha Lyonne.
So this movie is about this girl whose father runs an old-timey theater, and very old-timey. You know, like when he was running it, it would be like at the start, before the film, he'd have her singing and him playing piano and doing a presentation before the movie even started. Like super old-timey theater. And so the movie is, her dad's passed away, she's come into possession of the theater, or might be. And her character is this mousy, weird chick that's always existed in the shadow of her father, never really learned any social cues because she's, worked this movie theater her whole life, so she doesn't know how to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But her dad was married to this super cunt who now, after the dad has passed, is going to sell the movie theater. And there's a moment where she's got people in a theater waiting to watch a movie. It's like 6 fucking people. He's on his last legs, he's completely failing. And the stepmom reveals to her that she's going to sell the theater, and this chick just fucking snaps and murders the fuck out of this lady. And it's caught on security footage. And so after she murders this lady, she hears all these people in the theater like, turn the fucking movie on. What the fuck are we doing here? So she rushes up to the projector booth. Projectionist is out for some reason. Can't remember. He's some rickety old man. And so she's like fumbling around trying to put the movie on, and incidentally puts on the footage of her murdering this chick. And like everybody in the theater fucking loves it.
Yeah.
I just think it's like this great short film that's just fucking just awesome.
Yeah.
And so then the rest of the movie is basically her riding on that high, murdering people in her theater and making it a film and to show the people in the theater. And she becomes like super famous, and she ends up like acquiring this cast of fucking degenerates to like work her movie theater that are like weirdo murderers. It's a super fun movie.
Yeah.
But I wish there was an old-timey theater experience
Yes.
like that. Somebody really staying true to the theater idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well,
And if that isn't a reason to go to the theater, what is?
Yep.
indeed. Well, that is going to be a wrap on episode
Thanks
4.
for tuning in.
Yeah.
back
Episode
shortly.
5 will be either 1 week from tonight or 2 weeks from tonight.
Got to
And
keep you
can,
guessing.
Find this on the YouTube as always, and check out the other videos.
Yeah, one of these days
got
we're going to start
3 under our belt.
scheduling them. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that. All right. That's a wrap. Peace out, everyone.
Bye.